recording this. Right, brilliant. Welcome everybody. Welcome to probably about the 6th or 7th in the series we've been running of Talk to the Hiring Manager. If you've missed any of the previous talks and would like to watch them, give me a shout afterwards. We have a showcase on Vimeo that you can walk through talks from head resourcing in terms of CV and interview prep, all the way through to various hiring managers like Richard. And today we welcome Richard Smith from Standard Life Aberdeen, soon to be rebranded if you've not heard. I worked with Richard what seems like a year ago, is probably something like 5 or 6 years ago now, God knows. You know, he was an inspiration to the team working for him at the time. And you know, a key area I think across the STA that we see demand from charities. They're wanting to understand how they can use websites better and all the sort of social media and supporting bits and pieces, very much which Standard Life Aberdeen has the full Monty working at full cylinders. So it's a great example of what good large scale can look like. But over to yourself, Richard. Welcome. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you much, Joanna. Thank you very much. Good to be here. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. So I've got a few slides I'd like to walk through today with you, but just before, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more and talk a little bit about my experience as well. So I am actually based up in Stirling, so in between Glasgow and Edinburgh. I'm located in the Edinburgh office for Standard Life Aberdeen, soon to be known as Aberdeen, or Aberdeen as some of the pundits are saying. So we are obviously gone through quite a lot of transition over the period, and I'll talk a little bit of this as we go through the presentation. But I've been with the company for over 14 years now. Originally, I started as a digital executive, and then moved into more of a wider role for digital marketing, looking at the investment vector across the UK. Since then, I've gone into more of a specialised area around marketing automation, but I'll go into that a little bit further in the presentation. Before my time at Standard Life Aberdeen, or Aberdeen Asset Managers previously, I was actually agency side. So I left university, studied sports and marketing at Stirling University, so I haven't left very far. Haven't gone very far. I worked at the agency for about 18 months, 2 years, and it was a digital agency. So that's where I gained some of my skills and expertise. And then moved into more of a client side for retail focused before landing in Aberdeen Asset Managers. Very much an exciting place to be. Digital was just starting to kick off there, certainly within the asset management vector. And really starting to look at how we can obviously support different types of investor types. So things like your private investors and to institutional, so B2C and B2B investors. But I'll go into that a little bit later. So me as a person, I've got family, I've got 2 boys, and I also very much heavily into my sporting activities. But that is obviously a balance and a trade, obviously, with the work that we do within Standard Life Aberdeen, which really allows me to really explore different areas of digital, which I'll go into in the presentation. So this is my team at the moment. So I am responsible for marketing automation right the way across the company. So the company has grown. We were obviously originally, I've come from the asset management part of the business. I'm now responsible for the personal vector, which is the B2C business, and also, which some of you may have heard of the advisor area of the business called WRAP or Elevate, which is the platform that advisors use. So responsible for these 3 parts of the areas and the marketing automation strategy across. So just before I go into sort of team responsibilities, as you can see, we've got 5 across the globe, specialists sitting under myself. These specialists are predominantly front-facing to the business, so they really liaise with the channel marketers, with the sales teams, with technology, and also with our compliance departments as well. They're responsible for driving the marketing automation strategy. So these guys will, to help build, for example, things like HTML templates. They'll start to put in the data points with the APIs, for example. They will look at some of the integrations between our platforms, and I'll go into a little bit more, but you can see on the right hand side some of the platforms that we use. Some of them you may have heard of: Salesforce. We also use a platform called Eloqua as well. They will be responsible for integrating some of these platforms in. They are technical to a certain extent, but they're not coders and they're not developers, but they do have that expertise and the knowledge around the actual the capabilities and obviously the data and the back end, but they're not necessarily, they won't go in and actually start to integrate the platforms together, but they will have that business case. As you can see, the team is spread right the way across the globe. Really looking at, again, that local strategy and how they can drive sort of efficiencies using marketing automation, and also driving sort of business add and value. So marketing automation, what is it? So some of you will be aware that it's influenced by email marketing. That is one of the areas in terms of naturally the way that we can automate our communications. So through trigger-based communications or trigger-based approaches using email, but also using areas such as SMS and social media. So how we can really support the contacts of the client's life cycle. So where they are in the acquisition, where they may be about to sort of in the discovery phase and looking maybe for a financial product, or they may have done a discovery and they're going to more of that due diligence phase. So we might want to supply them more with content, or they're just about to invest in our assets or in our products, and we really want to take them over the lines with supplying them with more specific content. There's also retention. So a lot of our audiences within certainly within the B2B sector is very much around the high valued B2B contacts. So they could be investing in millions or even sometimes billions of pounds into our products. So retention is certainly a big area. So we want to ensure that they're kept up to date with our products and our services and the performance of our funds and our products as well. So that's marketing automation from a comms perspective. We also have a big area around what we would deem as demand generation. And what I mean by that is lead management. So how the marketing teams and the sales teams can with lead. So we are in a digital world, and we appreciate a lot of our clients and our customers and our stakeholders are obviously using our website. They're using our collateral as well, which is all digitally fed. So the demand generation is very much how we can understand what our clients and our customers are doing on our digital estates, how they're engaging on our website, how they're engaging on our multimedia, so our videos and our webinars, and what intent they're showing. So what interest they're showing. It could be around a certain product or a certain capability that we have. That then fuels how we can then push leads into the sales teams as well. Okay, so marketing very much transforming into not just the team that used to color and pair pictures and make pretty patterns. They're very much there at the table in terms of that strategic approach and how we can drive value back into the business. And that is very much around one of those areas is around demand generation, how we can then support that sales process as well. So with that in mind, we've got some of the team responsibilities, very high level. So things like contact strategy, so our communication strategy, how we're communicating with clients and prospects as well. We also support our local sales teams as well. So we can't do this, we can't communicate. We have thousands upon thousands of clients. We have presence across 28 countries. So my team cannot support the global contact strategy. So we are there from almost like a first line support. And what you will see in some of the platforms on the right hand side, the local teams, so things like the channel marketers, will have direct access to these platforms and able to send out their own communications. But my team will be there for the first line support. Second one is around that automated process. So I'll talk a lot about life cycle based approaches, and what I mean by that is where they are in that process and that sales process, and how we can then obviously hit the prospect with the right content at the right time. So we use the platforms, the Eloqua and Salesforce platforms, to really automate the comms. Ecosystems, some of you are aware in terms of how we build out the ecosystems to support the marketing approach. So I've listed some of the platforms there on the right hand side. There's a lot more, and I'll go into this in further on in the presentation. But really how we develop these ecosystems to ensure that we've got an automated process, and we've got data coming back as well. So we understand what the client and the contacts are doing with this opportunity as well. Data capture seems obvious, and the process and engagement. We are very data centric, certainly in the Standard Life. Aberdeen, our CEO, is made no hesitations that we are now a technology company, and data is at the forefront as well. So very much around how we process data, and how we have the governance around that data as well, in terms of the contacts details and what they've done and how they've done it, and how that's transpired right the way across our marketing stack. Eloqua platform, Salesforce, we're responsible for those areas of the platform, and how they're set up and how they both speak to each other. So with that in mind, I should say, just on the right hand side, just going back up to the organization chart. On the right hand side, we work very closely with technology. So the technology counterparts, we have development support, so our programmers, and we have an analyst in there as well. These guys are very much into the obviously into the platforms, and they will work and really work around how the platforms are integrated, and they will take on requirements and code and build the platform integration. Some of them native, so native APIs, for example, but some of them customized APIs and SFTPs, and how we can bring these technologies together. So talking about how we're going to bring these technologies together, my slides work. This is a very high level view of our technology or our marketing platform. So really how the ecosystem works. So at the top, we have obviously our audiences. So we have the B2B and B2C clients right at the top. What you'll see then, we have our more of our marketing channels or digital channels. So we use for email and our automated comms, we use something called Eloqua, which is owned by Oracle. Then this is an enterprise marketing automation platform. We have our CMS, which again is enterprise platform, as we use Sitecore right the way across the business. We then have our events management platforms. So just the nature of our business, certainly for our B2B clients, it's important that we engage, and we have that face-to-face collaboration between our sales teams, our client services, and obviously the end client as well. And that's why events is very pivotal and important within the marketing mix, or the overall marketing mix. Obviously now we've just gone through a year and a half of COVID and lockdown, so we have moved to more of a virtual event, and we will continue to go down that virtual event with a mixture with physical events as well. But virtual events are here to stay, judging obviously from today's session as well. Then we have social. So social obviously a massive piece from not just from a marketing perspective, but also from a collaboration perspective. Our sales teams are using social, our operations teams are using social to really to push brand, and also to push response to market conditions as well. So I've listed some of the social channels on there. LinkedIn, an obvious one for B2B. We have Facebook, which is very much from a brand and B2C perspective. But we have things like WeChat and Line as well, which is over in our APAC markets as well. So we are a global audience, and we need to look at how we obviously how we support these audiences and different requirements. Last is the search and display advertising. So we have, from a global company and from the amount of products that we have, we have a vast spread of collateral across our Google Ad network and Google Display network in there as well. So what does this mean? So we've got Eloqua sort of sitting in the front. So Eloqua, yes, it does send out emails, but it does a lot more. So Eloqua is an enterprise marketing automation tool. So what Eloqua does is it integrates, as you can see, it integrates in with some of the core components of core platforms here. So we have an integration with Sitecore, which is a CMS, so we can understand what contacts are doing on our platform. We have an integration with Cvents, we can understand what clients have engaged and attended events, or who've accepted and not actually attended, or who's rejected as well. We also have integrations which didn't show within this diagram. We have social integrations in with social media as well. And what this means is it allows us to basically trigger communications and really orchestrate the campaign journey within Eloqua. Just coming down into the diagram, so the CRM we use is Salesforce, obviously an enterprise platform again. This is where we have a lot of our client and prospect data in here. So we understand in Salesforce, we understand who the client is, what they're invested in, what their financials are as well against that client. And when I mean a client, it could be a massive blue chip company, or it could be a smaller IFA that lives in the UK, for example. So this gives us the ability to pull data between the integration between Eloqua and Salesforce. It gives us the ability to pull data into Eloqua, so then we can tailor and target our communications and our campaign activity within Eloqua. It also, you can see there's a two-way integration. So Eloqua will push as well any interactions that we have. So it could be a client that they're engaging with certain content, or they're engaging with a specific capability on a digital estate. That will then push up into Salesforce, so the sales teams can understand what the client is doing as well. We also have, just going onto the right hand side, we have a lot of an asset manager needs to send out basic communications to notify the client how their funds are performing, or how their products are performing, and this is called a fact sheet. We have thousands, we have about 7,000 fact sheets that need to go out on a monthly basis across the globe. So what we have the fact sheet production actually integrated in with Eloqua, so that allows us to automate the comms out as well, and that really goes back to that automation and that scalability that the marketing automation platform that can provide. On the left-hand side, we have the resource management. So we have our multimedia, so a webinar platform, which we use BrightTalk at the moment. We have things like our digital asset management platform, which stores our marketing literature. And this is all integrated in with Eloqua. And then on the left-hand side is data, is our insights. So we use Google Analytics. We use for our analytics tool, obviously, and our tracking. We also have something called Power BI, which is Microsoft Power BI, which is really sits on top of Google Analytics and Eloqua to really look at the visualization and help to visualize the journey and the trends and the opportunities there as well. So from this perspective, you can see there's obviously a lot of technology. This is just some of it. There's a lot more here that we use, but there is integrations here, and it's so important in this day, certainly from a marketing perspective. There's so many touch points that the client and the prospect is going through, whether it is receiving an email, whether it's hitting our website from a search ad, whether it's attending an event. So what we want to do is that insight and understand what the client and the prospect is doing, and that's where the integrations come in, and the importance and the focus around these integrations and the APIs that we've set up. So we have that single customer view within Eloqua and within Salesforce, so we understand what the client has done and what they've been doing, and we also have the opportunity then to support the client life cycle through triggered communications. And then all in all, on the left hand side is how we then visualize this and spot opportunities as well, and this is where the analytics and the insights come in as well. Okay, so for that in mind, there's obviously integrations, there's APIs, there's technology involved, And the area that we're in, the asset management area and the financial sector, unfortunately, there is a lot of complexities involved as well, which means that we can't just use native APIs. We need to think about things like compliance and restrictions. Restrictions ensure the data and the integrations support these compliance requests as well. And this is where a lot of the customized sort of APIs integrations come into place. So how do we do this? How do we run our technology teams? So we use agile methodology. So technology development, we have a technology team that sit, as I said in that earlier presentation slide, that sit and collaborate with the market automation team or the owners, the platform owners. We run 2 weeks sprint process as well. And just before I actually go into the sprint process, it's very important that we as a business are able to compete with the new startups. And also, things like the robo-advisors and the fintech organizations. We are a business of considerable size. And for us, we need to be able to adapt and move quickly and come to market with new products, new capabilities. And that's really where our agile process comes in as well. So I'm not going to say it's easy to, certainly for the size of business that we have and the legacy technology that have been in place, to go to an agile process. There has been some teething issues, but we are there, and we are very much going through that agile process, which gives us the ability, from a marketing perspective, to really sort of come in and really provide value and incrementally into our propositions. So for a client, we are client focused, we are customer focused. It's not something that we are that stays in the tin and we need to sort of tick boxes. Again, some of our principles within the business is now sort of customer centric. This has now come into, obviously from a marketing perspective, it's come in terms of how we communicate with clients and things, but it's also now very much around how we set up our platforms and user journeys, and obviously UX and CX being very core principles within a development cycle. So just to walk through a little bit here, this is very much a sprint process. So we run 2-week sprints, and at the end of those sprints, we have a release process as well. So on the left-hand side, we have the product owners, i.e. myself and my team. We have then the sprint team. We use a platform called Azure, Azure Development Ops. There is obviously other platforms out there, but we are a Microsoft house. So we use Azure to really plan and provide product backlogs in there, PBIs. We have sprint planning meetings just before, obviously, before we go live and with the 2-week sprint process. And we have a backlog in there as well. So it's all managed in Azure. What we do then is, obviously, we go through that 2-week sprint sprint process. We then have every 24 hours, we have a scrum meeting. Depending on the size of the project as well. It could be 15, it could be half an hour, 15 minutes or half an hour, should I say. And then off the back of that, then the work is completed. And it's obviously not as easy as this, but the work completed could be, it could be into production, so it could be pushing into production, or it could be in sandbox, and then the next sprint is we build in production as well. So depending on the project, depending on the scale of work involved as well, will depend on what goes live, if it's in sandbox or in production. I should say it's really important we have then that sprint retrospective. So right at the end of the sprint, we do evaluate, and it could be what's gone right, but more importantly, what's gone wrong, and the learnings in there as well. So we do look at things like the release process, the functionality that we've managed to release, but also how the sprint is working. So the cohesion within the team, the collaboration, the understanding as well, and any areas that, maybe some knowledge gaps in there as well that we may want to improve on as well. So that is run every 2 weeks. We do have a sprint board for Eloqua. We've now got 2 Eloqua instances, so we have 2 sprint boards. and it's quite a full sprint board, and also bugs go in there as well. So it's things like obviously new initiatives, BAU run, so things like that maybe some integration is broken, but we also have bugs as well. So that's very specific. There is a case, there is an issue that needs to be fixed as well. And also small change goes through there as well, as part of the overall sort of ongoing optimization of the platform and the integration. So just moving on, so just some of the focus areas around sort of the technical team and the marketing team as well. But I've highlighted some on the left-hand side as well in terms of the competencies that we would expect from the team. And also what the sort of areas that we need to grow into as well. On the left hand side, we've got connectivity. Okay, so I've talked a lot about how the platform integrates together, in terms of the marketing platform, the componentry, the technology, the APIs, the flow of data. How this is so important in terms of how we evolve as a business and how we support that customer and the experience. So around there, some of the points here, maybe natural to yourselves, but maybe some obvious ones, but some other ones as well in terms of the technology and the languages that we need to support these integrations. So data APIs, I've talked about native APIs that some of these platforms bring. So Salesforce, Eloqua, they have a native API between them. But we have APIs that we need to build out as well. So things like bulk APIs that are hopefully going, and we have REST APIs as well. So these are some of the areas that you should certainly be familiarized with yourselves in terms of what the future looks like from an API perspective. We've got some other areas in here in terms of we've got Python, we've got SQL, and the non-SQL. So this is very much I suppose the area that we need to support the data and pushing back and forth, but also how we build out again those custom APIs. We've got Java in there as well, and obviously some of the areas, certainly in the front end, that we use and around our preference management and around our websites as well, to support that customer experience. And then we do use the not all APIs. We have the JSON in there as well, and how we can dynamically bring in content or functionality within the user journey. AI. It was the future, it's now the present. So artificial intelligence, we are using this at the moment. We want to use more of it, really to understand what our clients and prospects are doing. So Salesforce and Eloqua, they all have AI functionality. We use a platform called Einstein, so Salesforce Einstein, which is altogether an AI component. And we're also using the data lakes. So this data a lot of the data will sit within data lakes. So things like Snowflake, and there's obviously a lot more data lakes out there, but that's one of the examples. So how we can bring this data in and use AI as well. So really the natural one, we've talked about some of the technologies. So obviously Python would be a big one, and SQL as well to support AI. But really sort of building your understanding around data structure and algorithms as well. So AI, I would certainly look at that. It's not just again a nice to have. I think certainly depending on the company you're coming into, it's almost like a necessity now, and sort of that understanding around AI and how it supports the business and how the technology works underneath. Customer centric. I've talked about this. It's so important. It's not just within the marketing on the front face and the sales teams. It is the technology teams, and how we support the obviously the ongoing offering that we have from a technology perspective. So customer experience is a big one. Understanding what the customer wants, and thinking about when we're programming, when we're developing solutions, front end or back end, that we have the customer at heart as well. Always on. So we, as a marketing function, are moving away from say just ad hoc campaigns and want that always-on experience for the customer. So they may have they may show some intent, for example, on our website around a certain product. That means they will receive an automated comms as well, and it will be always on. So the Amazons of this world and maybe the John Lewis's of this world as well are good at this. You look at a certain content or piece, you then come back onto their website and you see that content on the homepage, or you receive an email. The next email, their newsletter, is about that specific piece of or that product that you were looking at or browsing at the last week. So they're very good at that. We're moving on to that always-on approach. Agile. I talked about agile and making sure that we're nimble enough to support that customer-centric approach. Feedback is a big one. So feedback not just from internal, but also from external as well, and how we can use customers as more of our stakeholders. Okay, they're our development partners, so we can understand what's working, what's not working, whether it's feedback using Google Analytics or whether it's tangible feedback from questionnaires as well. Design, big one. It needs to, the UX needs to be right. We need to, if UX isn't right, then obviously it's not going to work, and customers will churn and they'll just walk away, and they'll bounce from our websites, for our emails as well. So taking a leaf out of Apple's book, they've obviously very good at UX and it's worked, and their product has worked as well. So from a financial company that we are, we're trying to move away. We're not just a financial, we have that customer and that obviously that experience at heart as well. Vision, it's something that's sometimes is missed. Certainly from a hiring manager, from my perspective, when I interview my team or interview stakeholders as well, I want to understand that vision as well. So there's some curiosity there in terms of how clients and should be treated and what the vision is sort of ongoing. I talked a little bit about AI as well, but how we can obviously ensure that the customer experience is optimal as well. Business value. So technologists and even sort of marketeers as well, we're very good at obviously what we do and producing solutions as well, but sometimes our heads are buried and we're very focused on what we're doing. We need to look at that business value in terms of what we are delivering, has that business value and that tangible value in as well. Last but not least is data driven. Talked about this in the earlier slides, but ensuring that we're analytical minded. We're questioning, we're querying, we're using data to understand sort of success and also failure as well, and how we can optimize. Testing is a big one. Hopefully shouldn't come into any shock here, but testing, everything is tested, whether it's the business testing or whether it's the technologist testing as well. And that really just comes around to that critical thinking, that we are critical in terms of what the data is shown us is correct, and data shown us and reflect that within the technology as a whole. Just coming in, just really around the key attributes that I think just want to call out here. So technology skill set, this is very much around marketing, but I think it alludes as well to ourselves or to the underlying technology. So marketing is going for an evolution. We are going, so the channel marketers are no longer just marketers, they are turning into technologists. So they're using social media, they're getting deeper into the platforms as well. They're getting deeper into using things like Sitecore or Salesforce or BrightTalk. They're actually in the platforms that don't have to rely on unnecessary technologists. So you have to think about how that reflects to traditional technologists, so the coders and the programmers, and what that means. So your stakeholders are changing. Your stakeholders are no longer just your average sort of technologists. They're now sort of the front-facing business as well, and also the sales teams as well. So it's that breakdown of barriers as well. So it's going back, so when you come into the business, certainly as a business, you're not just liaising with your counterparts, you're obviously liaising with more of the front-facing business as well. So the MarTech, so advanced ecosystem, customer-centric models, as you've seen here from my previous slides, they are set up, these ecosystems are set up around the customer and the value that marketing can drive as well. So really that understanding of how the marketing stack and the ecosystems fit together to support, and how the APIs come in and the integrations come in, and what the value of these obviously technologists and the programmers can bring. Incremental gains. So waterfall, we want to be quick off the market. So really ensuring that we've got that agile process, and that agile process is understood. So there's a lot of hand holding, certainly with the business as well, and taking people through a journey that maybe not used to agile. And really just that understanding and breaking down those barriers and the expectations of what that agile process can bring. Just around that business collaboration. So there is an area that you will need and should be collaborating across all areas of the business, and it's rebuilding your soft skills, which sometimes is missed. And it's a real opportunity for you to obviously provide value back in, not just to your own team, but again to that wider business. So communications, so it could be verbally, it could be presentation, or it could be through your through obviously email or through Slack or whatever it is, in terms of being descriptive and breaking down your core areas as well. I'm a firm believer is people have not got time to read a massive scroll down email with 500 words. So we can be succinct and use bullet forms just to really script and summarize the points that you're trying to get across. Initiative, be forthcoming, sort of challenge, you have expertise, so really putting your initiative across as well in those conversations. Relationships, I can't stress as much, certainly when you get to if you do go into a large sort of company like this, is to build relationships. So obviously things like going out for a beer or going out for a bike ride with people, but grabbing a coffee with someone as well, and starting to break down those barriers, whether it is again in your own team, but also with your stakeholders as well. Persuasion, we're all going through a technology evolution. Some people are, they are, I suppose, opposed to not just necessarily the technology revolution, but in certain areas or ways of practice as well. And that's really where your persuasion skills come in as well, and how you can obviously promote best practice. And last but not least, it's just really around the behaviour. So how you as an individual grow, what your aspirations are, where you see the value, and where you see businesses going, and where you can fit in. Being self-reliant as well, and really just the willingness to support. And I think this is where the technologists can really sort of lend a hand and really shine in terms of walking people through, taking people's hands, and really supporting others as they go through the digital transformation process. And I think that was it from myself.
Brilliant. Helps if I unmute, that's always easier. Thank you so much, Richard. That was a very quick one through quite an extensive setup, and the kind of different roles and different skills that you're looking for. I guess open it up to everybody else. Is there any questions from anybody? I don't know if you want to stop sharing your screen now, Richard, so it might be easier for any questions. I guess in one sense, one question I have that might be of interest is, do you have an internship scheme where people can select to work with your team, or do you join SLA generically?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, we actually, it's an SLA generically that they join. There are various intern schemes there, but there is an opportunity within that scheme to ask to join a specific team or certain exposure. But the intern scheme actually gives us the I suppose the capability to see all aspects of the business as well, so you get that rounded view, which is, and it's same for our grad scheme as well. So it is a very good scheme, and you understand if you did want to go into that technologist role, but you understand what other areas of the business are doing, which is really beneficial for yourself, and how you start to mature as I suppose as a grad or as an intern coming into the business.
Yeah. And what's your standout behaviour in an interview? What makes you kind of go, yeah, they've nailed it?
I think about just the for me is something that shines in CVs. I receive a lot of CVs that come through, and stuff that shines out is really the sort of the aspirations as well within the CV, and obviously the technical skill set as well. And I've said that within the interview as well. They can obviously communicate, they can have that conversation, but really how they manage stakeholders, and again their aspirations around sort of their vision, what best practice is, and also where they feel that potentially the industry or the sector is going.
Nice one. I could keep asking questions. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Well, thank you, Richard. I'm going to switch off the recording.